In 1996, a young engineer stood in front of a group of officials in Wuhu, a forgotten industrial city in Anhui province, deep in the heart of China, and made a promise that would either define his legacy or destroy it. "If I fail," he said, "I will jump into the Yangtze River." His name was Yin Tongyue. He was 34 years old. He had just walked away from one of the most coveted positions in Chinese manufacturing, a senior management role at the FAW Volkswagen joint venture, one of the most powerful and prestigious automotive operations in the entire country. A job that men spent careers trying to reach. A job that came with security, with status, with a future that was guaranteed. He left it all behind. Not for a better offer, not for a bigger salary, not for a company that already existed. He left it all to take over an abandoned brick factory on the northern edge of Wuhu, with a team of 9 people, a site covered in rubble, and a vision that everyone around him thought was pure madness. The office had no ceiling that could stop the rain. Meetings were held in leaking grass huts where the wind came through the walls in winter. When it rained, they worked wet. When it was cold, they worked cold. The seed funding for the entire operation was 300,000 yuan, roughly $43,000, for a car company in 1997. Nobody believed it would work. The Chinese central government hadn't sanctioned it. Under the law of the time, private entrepreneurs were not permitted to manufacture automobiles. The industry was the exclusive territory of state-owned giants. Chery was forced to register as a car parts supplier just to exist. They couldn't even legally sell their own vehicles nationwide. And yet Yin Tongyue did not blink. He had seen something the skeptics hadn't. He had spent years inside the machine of the Chinese automotive industry, watching foreign brands dominate, watching state giants move slowly, watching ordinary Chinese people spend their savings on cars that were overpriced and underpowered because there was nothing else available. He believed China deserved better. He believed he could build better, and he was willing to bet his entire life on it. On the 18th of March, 1997, construction broke ground on what would become the Chery Automobile Company. No press conference, no government ribbon cutting, no national television coverage, just 9 people, a broken site, a leaking roof, and a man who had made a vow he intended to keep. 28 years later, that man's company exports a car every 27 seconds. This is how it happened. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and the bell right now, because this story is just getting started, and you do not want to miss what comes next. To understand what Chery was attempting, you have to understand what China's automotive industry looked like in 1997. The government had a strategy. It was called 3 big, 3 small, a tightly controlled framework that designated exactly which state-owned companies were permitted to manufacture automobiles. The list was fixed, the boundaries were clear, and Wuhu was not on it. Yin Tongyue was not on it. Chery was not on it. So they built the car anyway. The first engine technology came from a deal with Ford Europe. $25 million for a complete production line, purchased second-hand, shipped to China, and reassembled piece by piece by a team that had never done anything like it before. The first car platform used a licensed chassis from Seats Toledo, a Spanish brand that itself was owned by Volkswagen. Yin Tongyue wasn't cutting corners. He was learning at full speed, absorbing every piece of engineering knowledge he could find from every corner of the world that would deal with him. In 1999, just 2 years after breaking ground in a leaking grass hut, the first Chery passenger car rolled off the assembly line. They called it the Fengyun, wind and cloud in Chinese, a name that carried ambition, a name that suggested something unstoppable moving through the sky. The problem was that Chery still had no license to sell it. Beijing was furious. The central government had not authorized this company. It did not fit the plan. It represented exactly the kind of uncontrolled private ambition that the entire system had been designed to prevent. Officials wanted it shut down. There were meetings, there were warnings. There was pressure from multiple directions at once, but the cars kept coming off the line. and the people of Wuhu kept wanting to buy them. In 2001, Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation, one of the state giants that the government had always favored, made a surprising move. They bought a 20% stake in Chery. Not out of belief in the dream, out of pragmatism. The stake gave Chery access to SAIC's national retail license, and overnight, Chery could sell its cars anywhere in China. That same year, something happened that had never happened before in the history of the Chinese automotive industry. Chery exported a car, 10 Fengyun sedans, destination, Syria. The deal was struck through a chance encounter on a street in Shanghai. A foreign buyer, a brief conversation, and a handshake that made history. It was small. It was almost accidental, but it was the first time a Chinese automaker had ever sold a passenger vehicle outside the borders of China. Beijing, which had spent years trying to bring Chery under control, began to look at it differently. The illegal car company from Wuhu had just done something that all the authorized, government-approved, state-funded automotive giants had never managed to do. It had taken China to the world. By 2003, Chery had launched a car that would become a cultural phenomenon. The QQ was a compact city car, small, affordable, and styled with a youthful energy that spoke directly to a generation of young Chinese urban buyers who desperately wanted their own vehicle, but couldn't afford the foreign joint venture brands that had dominated the market for years. It was practical, it was cheerful, and it was priced at a level that made it accessible to millions of people who had never imagined owning a car. The QQ sold in extraordinary numbers across Chinese cities. It became a fixture, parked outside apartments, weaving through traffic, filling the roads with a kind of democratic mobility that China had never seen before. General Motors was watching, and General Motors was not pleased. GM's South Korean division, then known as GM Daewoo, alleged that the QQ was a direct and deliberate copy of their Matisse minicar. The claim was specific, that Chery had replicated not just the exterior design but the engineering architecture, the internal structure, the fundamental DNA of their vehicle, without authorization and without compensation. The lawsuit landed first in a Shanghai court. The stakes were enormous, not just financially, but symbolically. This was one of the world's largest automakers taking on a Chinese company that had started in a grass hut less than a decade earlier. The global industry was watching to see what would happen. Then something completely unexpected occurred. Senior Chinese government officials, including a vice minister of commerce and a vice director of the State Intellectual Property Office, publicly came out in support of Chery. The officials who had once tried to shut the company down were now standing beside it in one of the highest profile legal battles in Chinese automotive history. The case was moved to the Beijing No. 1 Intermediate People's Court. Suggestions emerged that GM may not have adequately protected its technology through patents in China. The pressure shifted. In late 2005, the lawsuit was settled. No verdict, no public admission of wrongdoing from either side. Both companies moved on, but the message to the global automotive industry was impossible to ignore. Chery had faced down General Motors. The Chinese government had stood behind it. And the brand that began with 9 people in a broken factory was now a force that the largest car companies on earth were taking seriously enough to sue. By 2006, Chery sold over 300,000 vehicles in a single year, a 62% leap over the year before, capturing more than 7% of the entire Chinese passenger car market. An industry that foreign joint ventures had monopolized for decades was beginning to crack open. The room that had once laughed at Yin Tongyue was completely silent. Most car companies spend decades trying to crack one international market. They study it, they test it, they adapt their vehicles, they build dealer networks over years. They fail several times before they get it right. Chery cracked 80 markets. And it didn't stop there. From the early 2000s, Yin Tongyue pursued a global expansion strategy unlike anything the Chinese automotive industry had ever attempted. Not just shipping cars across borders, but building long-term relationships, establishing local assembly operations, training local dealers, and embedding the Chery brand into communities that the Western automotive establishment had either ignored or underestimated. The Middle East, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Africa, markets where price sensitivity was high, where the middle class was growing fast, where a reliable and affordable vehicle from a brand that wasn't charging a premium for its name could find real, sustained demand. And year after year, the export numbers kept climbing. By 2003, Chery had become the top exporting automaker among all Chinese car companies. It held that position the following year, and the year after that, and every single year that followed, for 23 consecutive years without interruption. Think about what that means. Through the global financial crisis, through trade wars, through the rise and fall of competitors, through a global pandemic that shut down factories and collapsed supply chains across the planet, Chery shipped more cars out of China than any other manufacturer every single year for 23 years. In 2012 came a moment that symbolized how far Chery had traveled from that grass hut in Wuhu. The company signed a joint venture agreement with Jaguar Land Rover, the British icon of luxury, heritage, and off-road prestige, to manufacture vehicles together in China. A company that had once been dismissed as an illegal operation from a forgotten province was now sitting at the same table as one of the most storied automotive brands on earth. In 2024, Chery exported 1,144,000 vehicles, a 21.4% increase year on year. And in 2025, the number climbed again. 1,344,000 vehicles shipped overseas, one car leaving China every 27 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. No other Chinese automaker came close. Here is something that most people outside China don't realize about Chery. It is not one brand. It is an empire. While the world was learning to pronounce the names of BYD and NIO and XPeng, Chery was quietly constructing a portfolio of brands so wide and so strategically designed that it now competes in almost every segment of the global automotive market at the same time. There is Chery itself, the original, the brand that built everything, the workhorse that conquered 80 countries through reliability, value, and a refusal to give up. There is Jetour, the adventure-focused SUV brand that has become one of the fastest-growing names across the Middle East and Southeast Asia. Built on the promise of genuine capability without the premium price tag that European rivals demand. There is Exceed, Chery's move into the premium segment, positioned above the mainstream brand, with a design language and technology suite aimed at buyers who might otherwise be looking at a European alternative and wondering if they could find something equally impressive for less money. There is iCar, an electric vehicle brand developed in collaboration with Huawei's technology ecosystem, combining Chery's manufacturing scale with some of the most sophisticated in-car intelligence available anywhere on Earth. There is Luxeed, a flagship electric brand, also developed with Huawei, aimed at the very top of the market. Vehicles priced and positioned to compete directly with the best that Germany produces. And then there is Omoda and Jeku, the newest names in the portfolio, designed from the ground up for the international market. In just 27 months of existence, these two brands sold over 600,000 vehicles across 64 countries. That is the fastest any new automotive nameplate has ever reached that milestone in the recorded history of the global car industry. A new Omoda or Jeku showroom opens somewhere in the world every single day. And sitting quietly behind all of it, the joint venture with Jaguar Land Rover, which continues to give Chery's engineers access to decades of British premium manufacturing knowledge. This is not a car company trying to grow. This is a fully formed automotive empire operating at global scale, across every price point, in every major region of the world. In August of 2024, something happened that nobody in the financial world had been expecting quite so soon. Chery appeared on the Fortune Global 500 list for the first time. Position 385. Revenue of $39 billion. For a company that had started with $43,000 in a grass hut in Wuhu, making it onto the most prestigious corporate ranking on the planet was already a story worth telling. But Chery was not finished making history. 12 months later, in July of 2025, the Fortune Global 500 list was updated again. Chery had jumped to position 233, 152 places. In a single year, the fastest ascent of any automaker in the entire history of the Fortune Global 500 ranking. Not just the fastest Chinese automaker, not just the fastest Asian company, the fastest of any car company, from any country, in any era. Since the list began, in the first half of 2025 alone, Chery sold 1,260,000 vehicles worldwide, a 14.5% increase year-on-year. Its exports in that same 6-month period accounted for approximately 20% of China's total vehicle export volume. 1 in every 5 cars that China shipped to the rest of the world in that period carried a Chery badge. Revenue reached the equivalent of nearly $60 billion in the most recent fiscal year. The group employs 48,000 people. It operates over 300 advanced research facilities. It collaborates with more than 60 universities and academic institutions around the world. The man who made his vow beside the Yangtze River built a company that now earns nearly $60 billion a year. He did not jump. So why doesn't everyone know the name Chery? It is a fair question, and the answer says as much about the world as it does about the brand. BYD dominates the headlines because BYD makes electric vehicles. And electric vehicles are the story that the global media cannot stop telling. Every new model, every sales record, every factory opening gets covered. BYD is visible because the world decided that electric is the story of our time. And BYD fits perfectly into that narrative. Geely gets attention because Geely bought Volvo. Because Geely bought Lotus. Because Geely put Chinese money behind European legends that Western audiences already loved. And that made for a story that was easy to tell and impossible to ignore. Chery built something different, something quieter, and in the long run, something that may prove more enduring than either of them. For 23 years, while the global automotive industry lurched through oil crises and financial collapses and technology revolutions and trade wars and a pandemic that stopped the world, Chery showed up every year. At the top of China's export rankings, sending more cars to more countries than any other Chinese manufacturer, without interruption, without drama, without needing the world's attention to keep moving forward. It is present in 80 countries. It has served over 17 million customers across the globe. It ships a vehicle every 27 seconds. Its newest brands are growing faster than any automotive nameplate in recorded history. Its Fortune 500 ascent is the most dramatic in the history of that list. And the man who started it all, the engineer who walked away from FAW Volkswagen, who held meetings in a leaking grass hut, who made a vow that the skeptics thought was either courageous or ridiculous, is still there, still at the helm, still pushing. Yin Tongyue said it himself at the Beijing Auto Show, in front of the 6 brands that now carry his company's legacy into the world. Quality is more important than sales volume. Innovation is more important than profitability. And partners are more important than Chery itself. That philosophy, held quietly and consistently for almost 30 years, built one of the most powerful automotive empires on Earth. The world is only now beginning to notice, but Chery noticed the world a long time ago, and it never, not once, stopped moving.